Okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time. We've talked about PIP a little bit and understanding. Okay, that's our medical coverage. I get hurt in a car accident. PIP is what covers us. We're going to spend a few minutes here discussing who it covers because that is something that in this law is definitely getting more attention than what it has in the past. The term resident relative is something that we'll use with some frequency here, and it's also a term that you're going to see when you have these options of what to do. And the reason that's being discussed in so much is because there simply needs to be more parameters that are being put on it in this law. Complicated situations of, hey, I've got a college kid, he's graduated, he or she's been living on their own for the past few years. Maybe I'm a family of divorce and I have kids that live in a couple different households, adoption, different custody issues, all that sort of stuff. That will all come into play now with how your auto insurance works.
Yeah, and is there a black and white? When does my, say, 26-year-old become, when is the time that they need to be covered on a policy themselves versus not? There really isn't. It was described as, hey, kind of like a snowflake. There's no particular, hey, you meet certain criteria and therefore you're no longer a household member and covered by the auto insurance. It's not necessarily the case.
I really like that description because that's true, because we get calls all the time of situations are just different enough and it's like, I'm not 100% sure. And those are the things we're all working through together.
And I think, again, we're going to err towards risk prevention and protection. That is going to be the common theme you'll see about through all these videos is that, again, we're going to be there and we're going to, in that situation where there's unknown, we're probably going to make the recommendation. Maybe it's time for your son or daughter to get a policy on their own. We're certainly there to help them through that, whether that's with your carrier or maybe another carrier that fits them. And again, some pricing should be more competitive here. Auto insurance is expensive here. We get that. But we also want to make sure that we're doing our job as an agency to say, hey, when you are out there or sending your kid out on their own, they're properly covered. Hey, you can put your head on your pillow at night and know that my son or daughter is protected. And ultimately, that's the important thing. We're talking catastrophic stuff here. We want to make sure that there's no gaps in coverage or lapses.
Yeah, some of the easier ones are, married, few kids in the house, 5 kids in your home. Let's say you've got a lot of kids. I've got 4. So I can get some of that idea. All 17 and under, they all live in the house, all resident relatives. That's really easy. Where we start to get more complicated is the call we often get is, hey, I've got a 24-year-old. They just graduated college. They spent a year at home. Now they've moved out on their own. Insurance is really quite a bit cheaper if I can keep them on my policy, multi-car discount, the homeowner discount, my driving record, all those sorts of things. This is the stuff that this new law is really putting restrictions on. And it's very clear in its language that if they are not considered a resident relative, and Adam used a good term of a snowflake, and that each situation is different. It's not just, well, this is the address on their driver's license anymore. It's not, well, the car is titled in my name. It's not that simple anymore. It's detailed enough that the insurance companies are going to look at this hard to say, is this someone that we legally should be or can extend coverage to? And those are the situations that if you are unsure, we really want you to engage us and ask those questions, because it's always easy to think about that premium, keeping that premium down at the time you're writing the check. But we want to be in a position that if and when a loss does happen, we have the appropriate coverage in place. We've had that discussion to be confident, yes, your son or daughter is covered. Yes, this this other person that's living in my home, maybe an aunt or uncle or whatever your situation is, we have a good handle on what your policy looks like, and we know who is or isn't covered in your house.
Yeah, and one thing that might come to mind when thinking about this is, hey, yeah, I think my son or daughter has taken out an auto insurance policy, but I'm not sure. Or I know they looked into this in the past and the price was through the roof for them to take out a policy in their name. Well, one good thing that's happening is a bit of an enrollment period. We're going to have an 18-month period starting on July 2 for the next 18 months, where maybe you've called and gotten quotes in the past and or called our agency to have a solution here, and we've said, hey, a lapse in coverage causes a significant surcharge. And that indeed was true. That is changing. With the idea of, hey, if auto insurance is more affordable to obtain, more people should buy it. And therefore protect themselves out on the road. So they're removing that as a rating factor. People with a lapse in coverage who maybe didn't have coverage in the past or couldn't afford it, we're in unique times. Maybe auto insurance wasn't top of mind, and you let it lapse for 30 or 45 days. That again is being removed as a rating factor. So if someone comes to mind in that situation where you're like, I know they haven't, I know I've been begging them to, give us a call. We're certainly happy to help. There's some additional credits that apply with, if it's a spinoff of a mom and dad. So there's certain things we can do, and now's the time to do it to help your son or daughter there. And again, give us a call or go to our website. There's an easy quoting platform there that we can get some information, and they could even text. If they don't want to give us a call, they can shoot us a text, and we'll communicate with them that way too.